treat. This is about rebranding through trust, inclusivity, and strategic communication. But for those of you that are maybe thinking about your APR and or have a strategic planning process that you're about to go into, or maybe you went into it and you want to know how to bring it alive in all of the work throughout the district, this one is going to be super valuable for you. I'm so excited about today's session. And before we get started, Diego, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit because that's what we do at CalSPRA is brag on our hardworking members. Diego Perez is a visionary communications strategist and speaker who currently serves as the Director of Communications for the San Mateo Foster City School District. With a deep commitment to equity and engagement, Diego has played a transformative role in reshaping how schools connect with families, staff, and the broader community. I'm going to keep going, Diego. You got a lot here. Diego led the district-wide overhaul of all 21 school websites and the Central District site. That is no small feat. That is a lot of work. Strengthening the district's communication infrastructure and co-created initiatives such as the One SMFC and Un-SMFC podcast, which elevates the voices of students, staff, and families. We were talking a little bit about this before we got started today, and I cannot wait to see how your student podcasts go. Like, please do send me a link. I'm super curious about that. His introduction of a layered communication strategy tailored to diverse linguistic and media preferences has significantly increased parent engagement and ensured that all families have access to timely, accessible information. He's been recognized for his leadership in educational communications and presented at AXA, CALSA, and CalSPRA, where he contributes to statewide conversations about student-centered, equity-driven engagement. And that is exactly what he'll be doing today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Diego. I will tell you, though, that he is perfectly comfortable with you asking questions as they come up. So please just unmute yourself and ask the question, or if you got a busy background that's really loud, put the question in the chat and I will make sure that Diego gets that question. All right, Diego, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for, of course, joining us today. Again, Diego Perez, Director of Communications here in the San Mateo Foster City School District. Excited to share a little bit about what we've done in the past 3 years to engage with our community and really revamp how our systems are run. At the same time, how they are easily accessible to anyone in our district that is navigating the educational system here. So it does start with at least understanding of who we are. We are here in the Silicon Valley, so right under San Francisco, north of San Jose. We are 2 cities, San Mateo and Foster City, have about 10,000 students from preschool to 8th grade with over 50 languages spoken. At the same time, we do have a majority of language being Spanish speaking or of Spanish descent, if you will. So at the same time, I do want to touch base on the leaders in action here in our district. We have had leaders that have been equity warriors, as I would like to call them, in how they navigate systemic change in truly valuing beliefs of doing right by students, regardless of who they are, where they came from. It began in 2018 to the 2019 with the establishment of the Equity Task Force from Charlotte Watkins. As also the Sanctuary Task Force. This was during a very interesting time, of course, in the media as it relates to politics and uncertainty that occurred. At the same time, we have Allison Proctor, who's still active. She's our longest standing board member at 6 years. Superintendent Diego Ochoa joined us in 21-22 with the focus of being an equity warrior in really doing right by the students here that have often been overlooked in the San Mateo Foster City School District. Noelia Corzo being one of the first Latina board trustees in our board of trustees in the history, also moved up as to being the first Latina county supervisor. So in addition to the things that we've done here, we really try to branch out and also make sure that folks within the community know that we mean business when it comes to doing right by students and making sure that they have what it takes to be able to succeed and thrive and be, of course, great steward and great citizens. We have, of course, our current board, which is Letisa Brooks, Maggie Trin, Jean Kim, and Stacy Ho, with Kenneth Chin leaving in 23-24. But during this time, we did initiate the strategic plan. I came in 21, 22, just 2 months after Superintendent Ochoa was brought into the district. So he and I actually met in the hallway. It was very fun because it was like, you have the same name. And it's like, yeah. And in Spanish, we have the saying, if you have the same name as someone, it's tocayo. So we called each other tocayo for like at least 2 weeks until it kind of died down. But in that same sense, he had a visionary mindset of let's try new things. Let's open up a podcast. Let's try YouTube Live. Let's try all of these different initiatives that would really put out the really good news that is going on in this district. When at the time there was a lot of not good news going on in the Daily Journal, if you will. But with that, we decided to change. So year one, we tried a lot of new things. It wasn't just, let's post on social media and see what happens. It's let's post on social media, but then go visit a school site and see what the student population is. So knowing that we have this strategic plan in conversations with my colleagues, specifically one of our colleagues, Kenyatta Cook, Executive Director of Middle School Curriculum and Instruction, we do annual video reports that kind of highlight the years as we go on. And she did note in one of our videos that this is the first time where she has seen a very clear and simple focus of three goals of equity, achievement, and wellness, and that our district has truly embraced that. So with a very streamlined three goals with a little bit of achievement and equity and wellness strategies, we are also coupled with the strategic plan's five building blocks that in any initiative that your department does across the district, they can always go back to and kind of use it as that North Star of how to implement an initiative or making sure that families, students, staff are engaging. Is it fiscally responsible? Are we sharing voice and leadership amongst the groups? How are we utilizing data, of course, to be able to fully promote the initiative? And also, are people trained? Do we have folks that feel confident in initiating that project and doing it with the appropriate tools and strategies, of course? So as we started, it was my first couple months, and I was tasked to get involved, and that looked very differently across the board because some schools were very like, "Oh, hi, you got pictures, let's take them," and then others were like, "Yeah, we really don't take photos here." So it kind of like was a rough start, but we did want to at least engage with the community first. So we created some very like intro Google Forms, and we started to brand it as one SMFC just to get collective community input in terms of seeing who our students are, reflect them in our communications. In the past, the district utilized stock photos, and we wanted to make sure that the folks that we are communicating on in our channels reflect the students that attend. So after the first wave of outreach, we did get like some beautiful photos of student headshots, and also we initiated an awards recognition program, if you will, where principals, teachers, and counselors, staff members input people that they believed who were worthy of a recognition. And it was recognition like the kindness award. It was like the all-star award. Like it wasn't anything overarching. It was just very simple and friendly for folks to be able to engage in some capacity. And then that gave me the opportunity to go across all school sites within the year and actually take photos of the different teachers that got the awards, talk to them, let them know who I am, let them know what I'm trying to do, and is to really promote the diversity that we have in our school district and make sure that shines through our communication channels. The far right photo, I don't know if you can see my cursor, she's Miss Honey. She's at San Mateo Park Elementary's SDC classrooms with one of our students there. And they have a garden, and one of her methods of kind of like giving our students a break is going to go water the garden. So knowing that is truly beautiful and impactful, and you can create a story from that, and you can tie it back to your strategic plan approach, for example. But I wouldn't have known that if I was in the district office, just typing up what the next comms plan was. You really have to get embedded with your community to know how it is that you can navigate the diversity and the fruitfulness that you have already in your school sites. So from there, ensuring representation is important. You want to connect with your school communities. You want to make time to gather and reflect on how to communicate with them authentically. And these two girls, they were part of a library grant campaign that I shot over the summer. So when I went to the school campus, this is actually the first day of school at Sunnybray Elementary, is one of our community schools. I saw them, I'm like, hi, and they were like, oh, Mr. Diego. Mr. Diego is what they call me. I don't want to do the whole like fancy Mr. Perez. But I was like, do you guys want to take a photo first day of school? And they're like, yeah. So they pose in front of the new NPR. And again, it's like you're strategic with it, right? You have a new NPR, you want to show it, you want to see smiling students, and they know who you are because I've already visited them. So it's kind of like that full circle of we want to be great communicators, but we can't be great communicators unless we're engaging authentically with our school communities. So that's one of the things that has been at least a shift in how we navigate these types of communication campaigns when it comes to new things that I'll let you know what we're doing right now later on in the slide deck. But it just helps when we have big initiatives and how to navigate the communications component behind them. So you do have to make those changes. As Trinette mentioned, I did get the task to change the school website. So the one to the left-hand side is our old website. It wasn't, yeah, no, it was the past. And now this is where we're currently at. We use Final Site. It's been really helpful to have all the school sites in one go and then be able to, update them as needed or provide support as needed. We do have staff that do that now. Thankfully, we have an office receptionist who I've kind of made a low-key communication specialist, but she's still an office receptionist. But I've utilized my tools to at least show her entry-level work, like editing a web page or updating photos on the web page, so that way we can keep it updated timely when I'm at site or doing other projects as it relates to the superintendent's office. So after that first year, we did have a version of a layered communications plan. This one was like the year one where I just tried to do different things. And then I put it on like a whiteboard and said, okay, how can we at least connect it or ground it to something that makes sense as it relates to the strategic plan? So one of the things that our superintendent engaged with our board was board study sessions. Instead of having 2 board meetings a month, which they had in the past, they changed it to do board study sessions in the second week of Thursday and then the regular board meeting on that final Thursday. But what this does is this allows us to at least ground ourselves with a topic and be able to disseminate that one topic across the board. So the example to that is the board study session, let's say this month, I believe we're doing it on achievement or equitable achievement. So you'll have a board study session on equitable achievement, and then I'll create some social media campaign that will go on our channels, do a podcast on it with the folks leading the engagement. Usually the folks that lead the session are our staff, our assistant superintendents, executive directors. They present to the board. That we have board community workshops where they can relay the information about what happened and invite folks to engage. YouTube live town halls during the time this was COVID. So we had that component for folks that still were uneasy about being in person. And then Café con Diego's is the branded method that we did for the morning meetings with the superintendent. And then, of course, we utilize Parent Square, so that has helped us to engage with our community very timely. And then we did that, we tried it, we analyzed it, and surprisingly enough, I always tend to analyze my communication strategies and campaign after CalSPRA, after going to the conference. That's one of the times where I have all these ideas, like just wrestling on the airplane flight on the way back home. And that's when I said, okay, maybe we should revamp it. Let's try something new. And at the same time, we knew that we had our community schools initiative starting that year because we were approved by the California Department of Education's grant. And also we were swapping 2 schools that the board approved to swap back to where they were. And I'll give you a little bit more insights to that. But to start with the community schools, this one was an equity initiative that we knew was needed for our communities. As I mentioned, we have a high population of Latino students here. It is truly like crazy, impactful, beautiful at the same time, the richness of culture that you have when you have a condensed population in a specific area of your city of a certain demographic, and then they have been often overlooked. They haven't been providing the resources so that those students have the ability to thrive. So the Community Schools Initiative really gives our Title I schools the opportunity to have the resources that wrap around services that give them the chance to have additional support after school, have after school sports so that they can have that extra component for them to be able to exercise, away from home if they always go home and then they just go home to the TV, if you will. But this did give us the opportunity to further engage with those communities and them telling us we've never been invited to any of these things. We've never had childcare, we've never had translate. Like those kind of like sentiments started to come around and we're like, no, we have to double down. And when we initiated the meetings, it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, we have to capture it, we have to communicate, we have to get quotes from parents. So really immersing yourself with whatever initiative it is, but don't forget that it's tied to that plan. One of the goals was equity. This is equity work. Now, how do we relay that plan as it relates to what you're actually doing? And that's when you always have a camera. I mean, I was just at a school site this morning, so you always have to have your camera at hand. and make sure that those media releases are signed, but have that authentic connection with the parents, with the students, your teachers, and you're going to see the change in how they see themselves being a part of the school community. They'll feel more welcomed. The students will say, "Hi, teacher," as you're walking down the hall, which has been something that at least fills my cup when I go to school sites, knowing that some of the students still remember. And then seeing them grow up is it's been really, really beautiful. And at the same time, we have the additional swapping of schools. So this is the North Central San Mateo area. This is where we have high population of Latinx students. And back in whether it's 2002 or 2003, the board at the time decided to create this neighborhood school into a magnet school, which unfortunately created a forced busing, segregation, if you will, of the students that once attended this school now were bused to other schools across the campus because a lot of the families didn't understand the paperwork, the understanding that you have to apply for a magnet school. So at the same time, we had families displaced. I'm just going to call it out, unfortunately, in that sense. So then we had one magnet school here with students being bussed around, and then we had another school, Fiesta Gardens, which was just across the highway 101. So the idea behind that, when I came in, was that we're going to be swapping schools. There's going to be engagement. We had a final report to the board on April 26, 2022, that outlined the plan and how we should be engaging with the community so that we can hear from them what they want when we do decide to move them back. The board unanimously voted to move them back and to give North Central the opportunity to have a neighborhood school. But because we initiated the community schools initiative, the process, that school, Fiesta Gardens, that now is of this year already moved, is in North Central, is a community school. So the ones that was a neighborhood school in the past now is a community school that has additional services for our families in that area to be able to fully engage with, whether it's school, after school sports, additional resources for Vision to Learn, for example. We have clinics that come by with a bus and give free eye exams to students. So it's truly has been a transformation. College Park now resides where Fiesta Gardens was. So we do have less traffic in terms of the folks that are coming into the school site. There's more students walking. So we've already seen the transformation at hand on the first week school. We're on our second week now. But this is one of those things that, yes, it's not spelled out in the strategic plan, but the strategic plan did initiate and talk about how can we further provide resources to our families. And this is one of those initiatives and projects that has truly created a sense of like school welcoming for families that once never felt that before. And at the same time, you capture it. So it's on the websites. We have communications on our social media. We do robocalls as well. So when we engage with folks in the early stages, it was a lot of robocalls. I went to the bus stops to try to see what families may not be technically savvy, to be able to have an engagement with them and let them know that just down the block, we're going to have a meeting this evening. You should join us. It's important for them to show up because it's going to be giving you resources in like a year or two down the line. Now we're here and we have families attending that school. This school now is going to be a K-8 starting next year. They have seventh graders, so we are making it a K-8 school as well. So with that, we do have, like I mentioned, you have your strategic plan. You want to pull out, I would say, read it, skim it, put it on an AI chatbot, tell it what it says, do your techniques, tips, and tricks to get the most out of it. But at a glance, I was able to pull out things and through pulling out those specific initiatives, you can already create communications campaigns from those. So for a culturally responsive classroom, that kind of already feeds into us switching schools, providing more resources to families, providing more grant funding to be able to be more culturally responsive when it comes to our instruction. One of the things that I do want to highlight as it relates to knowing that you're doing right by staying in tune with your strategic plan, but also being aware of the current sentiment, is the bottom section where we highlight the newcomer wraparound supports. So in this particular area, we know right now we're in an interesting time as it relates to students and their ability to feel confident in going to school. So one of the initiatives I took last year around May, and I showed this to folks that may have attended this in person, was we really focused on giving voice to students that were multilingual students that had just arrived here in the district. And we wanted to give them an opportunity to give other students a welcome, you can do this, don't be afraid, we got you. There's resources, there's support. And it's still in alignment with the strategic plan, but I'm also being mindful of the current sentiment as it relates to immigration and ICE raids and letting them know that here is a safe place and we have your back. So we did very quickly, within about 2 weeks' time, create this one page that does provide a video of those students speaking in their home language, making sure that they are interacting in the way that they feel most comfortable with. We created a landing plate that is translatable through Finalsite in partnership with Weglot. It's a third party that allows you to translate as many words up to, I think it's like 5 million, depending on your tier level. But it provides us with the main languages that we need to communicate with our families. And also it gives a voice, it gives photos of the representation. So I wanted to make sure that this was very student-led. It does have resources for families as well. This was again in partnership with the Multilingual Learner Department. And again, we're doing this work, but it goes back to the strategic plan. Like I'm not going away from this plan. I'm always looking at that. And then from there, it's like, all right, if the plan is providing newcomers with resources, how can we do that? How can we show that? And what does it look like? And it looks like the students who themselves have already gone through the system or are actively going through the system that can share their own story in a confident way. But also, you have to have that authentic connection. And the pro tip to this when you are engaging is I always recommend you call the parent versus an email. I always do phone calls to parents because it's like the best way to connect with them. With our Japanese speaking parent, the parents were able to speak English and she speaks English as well, Akari. Um, but during the interview, because we asked her to speak in Japanese, I did have a translator that supported me. But you have to take that initiative. You have to take the lead, figure out what's the best way for you to engage with your community. Um, as you see them, we all were once students. What's one of the things that you weren't able to connect that really made you kind of you want to connect in a way? So I do the interviews with the students, with our staff, with our teachers. For Akari, because she was speaking in Japanese, we had a translator supporting us. And I was kind of like asking her to ask questions. And at one point, I just told the translator, you know what, just have a conversation with her. And then I'll send you the recording. You translate it for me, and then I can read it. And they had some beautiful conversations. Of course, we can have the full-blown interview, but it helps that at least she was able to drop her walls with someone that spoke her language and have that authentic connection there. As it relates to our Brazilian students, surprisingly enough, for all of my Spanish speakers, if there are any in here, you can have a conversation in Spanish with someone that's speaking Portuguese and vice versa. You can actually understand. I don't know how I did it, but it worked. I have a video in a preschool series that I'm doing that I can share with Trinette later, but it was an interview that I held in Spanish with a mom who was speaking Portuguese, and it just worked. So it was interesting, but you have to have those authentic connections as well. And then this is another aspect of it because we've done so much engagement. It's one of the building blocks. It's kind of like embedded in every initiative that we've done is the perception of wellness support. And we're a school district that's heavy on our CHIC survey, our California Healthy Kids survey. This one's from the California School Parent Survey in comparison to 2018, 2019, from the pre-pandemic to now, 24, 25. What we were able to see is that parents are feeling that there are adults that actually care about their students, that there's high quality counseling. And this isn't done just because we put a pretty picture, but it's because we have created a system that fully embraces the equitable work. And we're blessed to find folks that are truly passionate about engaging with our families and our students. More multilingual staff are in our district more now than before. We have folks that speak Portuguese, Mandarin, Spanish. We just got, so I think, a couple folks that are in the Mandarin category that are able to work in the central office. So we're making an effort to make sure that those voices are being heard and responded to at the same time. And we do utilize what the California Department of Education provides, in this case, the CHIC survey or the California School Parent Survey, to see from an outside organization that's surveying our families anonymously what it says. This isn't something that the district puts out that we want to know. It's something that they create based on their own methodology that we use as a guidance to see where can we work more on so that our families do feel more included and know that we're here to have our children's back. And then at the same time, it's important that we are engaging with, like that was an example of me in partnership with student services. This one would be the example of me with ed services. At the same time that we engage with folks being welcoming and inclusive, we also engage with folks on reading levels, on mathematics. We want to make sure that our students are meeting and exceeding those standards. So in this case, in the February 2025 overall, we have had students that have been very well and have exceeded. And the number actually has increased now to the second graders for this was February, April, March, from the March assessment. They actually went up to 80%. So it's been very, very nice to see that while you do communicate, you have to read, we have this PATH program, we have the ability for our community service specialists to do phone calls, home visits, provide families with the technology they need to thrive. At the same time, we also know that the data speaks for itself, and we have seen those increases. And it's important for us as communicators to at least analyze and assess these with our corresponding colleagues, so that way you can know how to communicate it effectively as the time moves forward. And as folks are asking about how our students doing, you have something at least in the back pocket to communicate on. So at the same time, and this was not supposed to be loud, so I'm going to pause it. We have to communicate this in a way that best resonates with the community. So for the past 3 years now, and it's only was created because I went to a Casper conference, I saw an annual report presentation, and it just blew my mind on how you can capture something that has happened within the year, like in a compact way. So now I've done 3 different iterations since that Casper conference in 2023. Um, yeah, it's been fun because this is the time where you can truly reflect on all of the data, all of the different shifts that you've done as a community, as a school district, as an organization, and then tell those stories. So, like I mentioned, I don't shy away of making sure that students are represented. I'm going to play a little bit of the video just so you can see that the person who opens up is a Spanish speaker, and she talks about her experiences provided, which goes within the theme on investing in the future, continued progress, and lasting impact.
Algo que hice muy importante este año y
And you can hear it, right? Thumbs up. Okay, thank you.
Ciencias Outdoor Education, donde mis compañeros y yo hicimos senderismo, comimos cosas deliciosas, dormimos en cabañas y todo eso gracias al distrito escolar.
We're on the doorstep of year 4 of the strategic plan, and this year is about making investments.
I'm Amanda Driscoll. I'm the Director of Child Development in San Mateo-Foster City. Back in 2022, as principals, we were actually looking at our 4th grade literacy data. And what the data told us was that one common thread for our students who were at benchmark or approaching benchmark, the common thread was preschool. We set out to...
And I'll pause it there because then it goes great into the segue of the preschool aspect. We've now have had 3 years of seeing this initiative flourish. I've already put out one communication that highlights the impact it has had on our multicultural families. The parent was from Turkey, and she really shared about like whether it's translation, whether it's I need to find resources, food, like the staff there has helped them. And that impact is truly important to highlight and share. And the reason why is because as we move forward, we are initiating in a lot of different initiatives. Right now, we're considering a bond. We're in the precipice of initiating our new visioning kickoff for the community strategic plan. As we close out this strategic plan, we're going to be now creating another one for 2732. 32. But that's going to be a broader, bigger that invites students, like more multicultural families, staff that check off different boxes, whether they're from the union, whether they're classified, certificated. So it's like continuing that story now. If I were to have these 3 books, I can at least see clearly the strategic plan coming into fruition as it began, which is something that has been impactful, at least for the folks reading this. And yeah, so the preschool one is another series. We're working on project-based learning, a different way on how we engage with students. So I was just at a school site yesterday capturing those stories on the PD they went over the summer and how they're going to be initiating it. At the same time, knowing that that will be a part of the community strategic plan on how teaching and learning is happening in our classroom. So I'm already sneak peeking some of the initiatives that we'd want to ultimately change as a whole as a district. But I know some schools are piloting some things, some others are trying new things. So it's just being connected with who's doing what that would really reinforce your communications moving down the line. Just layered communications at hand. This is just how it kind of works. You do have your at least central place, which is like in this case, the magazine or your web page. You do have to analyze your website clicks. How are you engaging with folks in person? As I mentioned, we have the Café con Diego's, the board community workshops, how you communicate weekly through with parents, but also social media has been a huge component of how the younger parents have been engaging with school communities. So yeah, definitely look at the data, definitely assess in the different channels and the modes they're communicating with, and then have fun. That's the biggest part. You have to have fun. But then you're probably asking, oh, this is the final version. Let me just show you real quick. This is the final version of the layered communications. We of course now have a branded logo for the podcast. As Trinette was mentioning earlier, we're now shifting it versus whether it's the superintendent or myself leading it and hosting it. We're going to have our Empowering Student Voices Council be the podcast hosts. And I'm still fine tuning the things, but if I were to brainstorm with y'all, the idea is for me to provide them with the equipment. They, of course, pre-plan, select who they're going to interview, whether it's a counselor, a teacher, or other student body about what's happening in their school site. Give them a script flow, and then they would guide me in how they want it to edit. And then we go and do the editing process as well. And then of course from here we have the added addition of super salad visits. This has been really nice for folks just to have the walls broken down when superintendent comes and literally brings salad for lunch. And we have had a really great turnout in the sense that folks are like, where's the presentation? It's like, no, we're just having a conversation. You can tell us anything you want. And then it's just me, him, and the executive assistant, Tatiana, sitting there fielding questions, whether they're good or bad, but it has helped us at least have an ear to the ground on what staff truly feel. With or without principals there, it's open for a game for staff to attend those. And then school partner visits has been very impactful in the sense that because there has been during the initial strategic plan, they wanted more community involvement. This past 2 years now, this would be the past year, this would be the second year that we initiated it. The school board partner visits allows us to visit 5 school sites at once with 1 board representative, with 1 executive member representative. And then at each site, we invite different partners. So of course, if you're in an elementary site and we have Homework Central there, we invite the folks who provide that support from Homework Central to see the classrooms in action, to be able to see what we do and how they can also further their work, whether it's after school program service providers that can align with what we're doing. So that way it like reinforces the learning. So it's not siloed in the sense that you're in after school and then we have regular school. It's a consistent method of teaching across the board. And this has been really very well attended and received. We have elected leaders. We have folks from our partnering school districts and other organizations from the county office that attend. So that way they know what we're doing. If they heard the initiative of our preschool, we want to show them the preschool. And we have our director of the preschool program there to lead that section, or if it's a teacher talking about the lesson that they're doing. But it's all pre-planned, it's all assigned, they have a program, and it's one of those fun things. We initiate these in October this year. So more to come on that side. And then, yeah, these are just some examples of the school board partner visits. We have our elected leaders, we have our board, executive director of the Ed Foundation, parents from the community schools that attended, executive directors, students from our Parent Student Voices Council, principals, PTA. It's been truly nice to see the community come together. We also have our local police department with Rookie. That's their service dog that comes everywhere, and that steals the show every time. But it has been really nice. It has been really nice to see at least when you have all components of your stakeholders in one group on the same page when it comes to education has truly made a difference. And when we do engage, whether it be digitally on social media or sending an invite for an upcoming ribbon cutting, they know that it's a mutual sentiment that, yeah, this is for the students. And it's been really nice to see that grow. But now how can you do all this, right? I think I saw a question in the chat, Trinette. I was speaking on this side, but they asked, how big is my department? And it is just me, myself, and I. But that's why you use AI, and that's why there's that component in this presentation on that. But I do have an office, our office assistant is also our receptionist. So aside from her, getting calls from everyone, having people come in, welcoming them, sign in. I also assign her tasks as it relates to the comms department because I can't do all of these alone. So I do have at least an hour or two from her every 2 days where she works on some of these things. But as of right now, I don't have any direct staff under me. She works within my office that I actually pull. And then I was able to get an intern last, I think it was after the Casper conference, so like June. And he was a previous middle school student who's now a junior at a high school. And he came back and he's helping me with some things. So I don't have any formal like community specialist staff or sorry, communication specialist staff or a video person. I either do it myself or I outsource the work. But AI has helped a lot in terms of organizing all of these things. I do say that AI is a tool. That's of course true. Um, People might not like that I anthropomorphize it, but it is a thought partner in my sense because when you don't have anyone right next to you, who else are you going to talk to? So you really can garner some kind of back and forth of that conversation with something that at least is pulling information from the World Wide Web. I do use ChatGPT when it comes to like responses, emails, clarifying things, making sure it's polished. I use Motion for organization, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then Otter AI for note taking. I do want to flag Otter AI in the sense that we all have a we all work in a public institution. So when it comes to Otter AI, I would be cautious that if you do get a public records request or the PRAs, if you will, um, that could be asked to be a part of that as well. So I kind of stopped using it just to be a little bit more cautious in case it is a confidential meeting. I don't necessarily want it to be out there, but just so you know, that would be a part of that PRA process. I use it now and then on things that aren't too big, like for the more simpler meetings where it's like an event. But when it comes to like confidential things, I do written in hand, just as a pro tip there. Um, but yeah, time management. These are the three ones that I can throw up for you guys to review. I still use Motion. In my presentation in person, I did mention that I might switch over to Reclaim AI, but I never did. Motion is just more intuitive in the sense of being easily, like not easy because you have to be a little bit more tech savvy, but it's dynamic in the sense that you can be more quick with it. And some of the, and I would show you if we have time. I really want to give time for questions, but for example, and I'll just do it really quickly. So with Motion, what you do is you put a task and it of course moves around. If you have a meeting and you put how many hours you want to put into it, how many chunks of hours, like if you want 4 hours, but 1 hour chunks, it'll spread it out, your due dates. But the really cool thing is when you put Motion and ChatGPT together, you use ChatGPT to explain your project, explain that this is what I'm doing, and then you tell it, I also use Motion AI for my calendar scheduling. Can you give me a CSV of this project? And then you get that CSV, you go to Motion, you go to the project-based aspect of Motion. There's a button there. I can't remember right now, but what you can do is create a project template, upload that CSV file, and then tell it a bit more to Motion what it is that you really want to get done and when. Then Motion uses that CSV to create a project where you can then assign to people. If you have folks on Motion, I have our office receptionist who also helps in that sense. So I'll assign her, okay, she can do this email, she can do that, like the quick tasks. But it's truly impactful when you blend the two together. Just as another tip there. And then we also use content creation, ChatGPT, of course, but Jasper AI, I started to use it last year. I still use it every now and then. It helps with more marketing aspect and communication, so you have a little bit more free way to use it. Um, and then Canva Magic Write was new when I presented this. I haven't used it as much since then, but I know this is an option for folks that do utilize Canva, and it's free for school sites. So this is not something that you have to pay for in that sense.
Diego, there's a couple questions in the chat. So one is, do you use the free version of Motion?
No, I pay for Motion, or my department pays for Motion.
Do you recall how much it is? That's okay. Don't want to put
$20 a
you on the
month.
spot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I can check though. I think I got the yearly one, which is within like 1,000.
Awesome. And then, what camera do you use? Because everybody is feeling like your pictures are amazing.
I use a Canon, and it's not a Rebel, so it's just the Ah, oh no, it is EOS Rebel T7. The T7i has the flip lens, which I would recommend in case you do like selfies with students. I don't have that because I'm always taking pictures of others. But yeah, the T7i can have the flip camera so you can see yourself, but the T7 is a standard one. And then I have two lenses, a long one and a short one. The long ones are truly helpful if you really want to have that dark background, but you just have to, or sorry, the faded background, but you just have to be a little bit farther from your object.
Great. And then, are you okay with us sending the slides out for
Yeah,
everybody when we
I
send
can
the
send it
recording?
over as a PDF.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
And then this is the part in the actual in-person where I ask how you guys are using it. So I think from here it's free game, Trinette, if we want to open the chat, the conversation, and just start talking with one another.
Are you asking people how they use AI?
Yeah. Like if anyone
Okay.
uses it in this way, how you engage in content creation, do you have a strategic plan? Kind of like free range across the board.
All right. What questions do folks have? While we are waiting, I wrote down a couple while you're doing this. I want to applaud you on so many levels. Like, one is the organization that you've demonstrated is amazing. And the connections that you've made between your leadership vision and the things that you're doing on the ground are amazing. But I imagine you might have encountered some pushback from certain community members. And I'm just wondering how you strengthen your resolve and really help your board stay strong.
Yeah. So one that comes to mind was so I think it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. No, 2 years ago. There was a local elected leader that was trying to run again for their position in one of our cities. And they used a photo of a principal and a student with them involved. So they were like, everyone was in the photo. And then I got an email from a parent, or like Nami was a superintendent, got an email from the parent saying, I can't believe you're using, political campaigns, so forth and so on. And I was like, man, when did we do this? Because I wasn't there. There was no media releases, none of that stuff. That was the first, at least, kind of like it was more of a miscommunication versus a pushback, in the sense that she wanted to do something about it. And I relate to her that we don't, condone any political candidacies in that sense. We don't want to encourage anyone to vote anyone, and that was done without our knowledge or our approval. So I personally met with a parent at the middle school. I talked to them and I was like, this is our process. I showed them the media release. We have it right there. It's in ed code. So that was out of our hands. But then we did kind of take it a step further in the sense and write a cease and desist letter to the person, letting them know that that was not okay, that they can't use that for political, campaigning purposes. In terms of like more specific pushback, we do have like staff that don't like to be photographed or video taped, if you will. I always lean into my principals to tell me who would be best to talk to, or who can I, come in and say hi with. They know their staff more than I do. They know their parents more than I do. The parent component for me, I truly recommend you having a conversation over the phone, especially if you're doing a special project as it relates to students in the classroom and you engaging in photography or photos of said project. Right now, we're working on a Gilead campaign that's due in like 3 hours, so I'm going to be going crazy after this meeting. But what we're doing is they're trying to finalize media releases, and I'm trying to communicate with the parent, letting them know they had a no, but they filled out the form, and I just want to locate the form so that way we have that at hand. So at the same time, it's navigating, making sure that you're in compliance and legally, you're okay, in that sense. But you always have to have that conversation with the parents, be on their level, understand them first, and then let them know that this is part of our initiative. We want to truly ensure that we are well represented and your student has, if they're doing amazing, let them know they're doing amazing and you saw their grades. Because I always ask about that. How are they in class? Do they talk a lot? You really have to get to those things. So in the back of your head, you can already start thinking about the ways you can communicate effectively, or at least have a conversation with the parent.
Very insightful. We have a question from Kay about whether you're able to share the survey questions that you asked the parents.
So that's part of the California Department or the Cal schools. I do believe they're public. I can send you the link where you can download all of our results. They're public though. Yes, we can.
All
I
right,
think
and
every district that participates in Cal school surveys, whether it's the CHIC survey, the school staff survey, or the parent survey, they're all public because they get uploaded to their database. And it was the webpage I was in earlier, Trinette, when I was trying to find the logo.
Yeah. Okay. Another great one from Tony in Roseville. He admires what you built and continue to grow. He came from a district with a strategic plan, but now is in one without it, where they follow the board expectations, which works because they're smaller. But since our role's always evolving and we need to stay current and modern, what advice do you have for keeping up? Do you dedicate time outside of work to research and keep ideas flowing, or do you have strategies that help you stay ahead without burning out?
Yes. Well, without burning out, it's happened to me, and I'm gonna be completely transparent. There's been like it comes in waves though. It doesn't happen always. That's when you really do need to at least disconnect for the weekend, go do something that's at least outdoors and just ground yourself. In terms of doing work outside to keep myself in, in tune with everything, I mean, because of Calspra, I have been able to engage with other members and I have them on a text basis. Like I have friends now from Calspra that I'm able to communicate with, hey, this is happening, or I get messages of a link and it's like this article. And I'm like, what do you need? Like, how can I help you? Creating those connections will truly help in a moment where you feel alone, because even though I am a one-person shop, I don't feel alone. And I'm blessed to even be able to say that, in the sense that I have folks that I can lean on, from Calspra, from Calsa, from AXA, that are there. Whether or not they're communications people, they have something that's valuable to you to utilize so that you can move forward. In the sense of keeping it up with the board, I mean, the board approved the plan. Wait, was that the right question? Since the roles are involved in keeping up. For keeping up with the things going on, I mean, it varies. You can get a little sad with all the news that's happening and trying to make sure, at least in the education system, that you're up to date. But every email that you get from whether it's Tony Thurman or whether it's your county office, at least skim it or send it through a chat to tell you the main points. But it's one of those things where that's kind of part of the job. I don't see that as an outside research. I see that as part of my role to be, up to date with the things that are going on. But yeah, no, it's been a roller coaster. And I might have a person soon. I don't know. I really don't. I hope. AI thus far has been just fine.
You sure deserve to have some help with the amount that you're getting done. We had a question about how you promote your community schools. I know there's a lot of districts. We've had a lot of growth in that area. Brianna's launched last year, and aside from messaging through Parent Square, they're struggling with turnout for events. Also, given immigration enforcement this year.
Okay, Brianna, I'm gonna give you a long response, but if you don't have community service specialists or community liaisons, I don't know who or how you label it at your site, but they're truly crucial for the community schools component. Yes, you can send the emails. Yes, you can send the robocalls, but unless there's that authentic connection with that one person they know they can reach out to get the resources or get the questions answered, it's going to be hard for the turnout. But the other way you can do it, and that's kind of where I initiated the bus stop strategy. It's because I don't know these families. At the time, we had School Messenger, which wasn't a best platform to communicate with our multilingual families. I went to the bus stops. I had my little note cards from an 8.5 by 11 paper cut in half, and then I talked to them. I could speak Spanish, so I could have that conversation with them, and it truly helped to at least engage with them. But then I asked them to also be stewards. Like I asked them to also invite 2 people. And then we'll be sure that we have services like childcare to this, because I need to have at least 10 or 15 to be able to accommodate. Like I always try to find some sort of incentive, and I show up as well. It's not just they run the meetings and they go. I want to be there too, so you can put a face to the emails. That's truly important. But as it relates to what we're doing now, each community school, because of the funding that we received, has a community service specialist that has that job to do that, to engage with families and get the turnout out. And then on my end, any stories, like I just got off the phone with our assistant superintendent, like to call me to let me know like what's going on, how can I capture it, what's the story, is there a parent that I can talk to? And that connection there is enough for like what you just saw to happen. Like this didn't just happen by myself. In some cases it was just me going to a site, seeing a pairing, initiating a conversation. And another was, hey Diego, I saw you put multilingual learner students, and this just happened yesterday. I have 2 students who are very vocal. One came from Japan and the other one came from Korea, and they're like best friends, but they don't speak English. And I'm like, oh, I wanna know more about that. So it's like once you start putting out the things that truly ground your work with what's actually going out on the sites, you're gonna see it just flourish by itself, because people are gonna see it and they're gonna like want to be involved in some capacity because it reflects their values. and they want to see the good news going around as well.
Love that. Kind of on that same theme of the amount of time you obviously spend with students and on sites. I feel like that's a struggle that a lot of us in school PR have is there are all these things that need to happen at the district level. But really, as you've demonstrated, the real heart and soul of everything that we do is happening in the classroom and on the school sites. So as you're spending more time on the school sites, are there things that you had to let go of at the district level? Are there things that you were able to let go of?
Yeah. Um, there are things that I was able to let go of in the sense that I could designate it to now the intern or now my office receptionist or office assistant. In the same sense, I know there's a lot of content, but I'm not at school sites every day. I pick one day out of the week, at least 4 hours. Our schools, we're lucky to have within like at least a 2 to 3 mile radius. So I can tag team, go to 2 sites. Maybe one day I go to all my community schools, get a bucket load of content, and then that same day come back to the office, upload them to a drive. And then depending on how you navigate edits, like because some of you folks probably do edit yourselves. I used to edit my own stuff and that was very hard. But creating a template, I know I saw a presentation in Calsbro on like Reels and how to do that and like how it just puts the videos together. There's so many tools that you can use in that sense. But it could also be like just a straight video of the person talking, and then that's the comms. Or it could be a series of photos, and then you have now a whole bunch of community school photos that you can relay in the next 3 weeks, like once a week post it, and then keep up to date with what's going on just by email. But you at least have the content ready so you can show. You just get the updates via email by your corresponding colleagues in that sense. But yeah, it's definitely at least one day out of the week. That's where I'm doing. I was there yesterday. Today I had to because we're doing the bond project and a ribbon cutting. So I was like, I have to go to the site and then come back.
Love it. Are there any other questions from other folks for Diego? I love that you mentioned Canva and the Magic Write tool. I've used that one before. I feel the other thing in Canva that can be super helpful is kind of related to what you just said with the photos and videos, like going out to school site, grabbing a bunch of content, putting it, I don't know what Canva calls it, but it's the AI video tool. It's not the one where Canva comes up with the content because that's not ready for prime time. It's not very good. But
Yeah.
the Canva video AI editor where you upload your own content is amazing. Like
Yeah.
you would
I
have.
I haven't used that one. I did use the Canva video editor to create like a series of montage videos in the beginning, just like so I can at least splice it through, and it's very intuitive. It's pretty simple as well. It works.
Fantastic. And I think we all agree with Renee that this is excellent work and they are really lucky to have you, Diego. And CalSprite is lucky to have you. And thank you for being so generous in sharing your wise advice. I can't wait to see what you propose to present on this year at CalSprite.
Yes, yeah. We have a lot of stuff
I
going on, so I just have to pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 5 ideas just from watching that I think would be super helpful for people. Um, in the meantime, I'm going to add a bunch of things to the chat that are upcoming CalSPRA events. So the call for presenters is actually going to be launching right before our August 29th office hour. So be thinking about what you might want to present on. I have to tell you that a lot of times people are intimidated by the idea of presenting at CalSPRA, and they don't need to be. We want a huge variety of voices, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. And especially, Diego, your work with equity and raising up student voices. One of the things that we have on the back end of our judging tool for the call for presenters is that anybody that is addressing equity and diversity receives automatically extra points. So that we are making sure that those proposals are the ones that are going to rise to the top. We need more and more of that. So the link there is for the August hour on August 29th. We'll be talking about the call for presenters. You can jump in there and just say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And we can talk it through. You can also join any of the office hours with any topics that you have in mind. It's very informal and free flowing. We have another webinar, conference callback webinar. And in case you didn't know, the conference callbacks are the highest rated sessions, and you can see why Diego's was very highly rated. At the CalSPRA conference, we look at the data and then we invite them to give the presentation again. Because if you've attended CalSPRA, you know there's probably 6 or 7 things that you didn't get to see because there's a jam-packed schedule. So we have one on September 3rd on organic growth on Instagram. September 17th, we have boosting your productivity. I have a feeling that one is going to have a lot of great systems and tools that we can use in our work. I'm always looking for a good system. And then we have another office hour in September, and that one will be focused on our awards program because we'll be launching that mid-September. So a lot of times the things that you're thinking about for awards are also really great things that you can present on. We don't mind if you double dip, right? Do a little bit less work and get more of the spotlight. We love that. And a reminder that the annual conference is March 11th through 14th in San Jose. The early bird rate is open and it will continue until Halloween. But I will say don't sleep on your hotel. Ha ha ha. Make sure that you get into the Signia. And the link is on the website under the conference. Even if you're not sure if you can attend, you don't want to miss out on having a room at the conference hotel. I've done that before. It's no fun. All right. Anything else, Diego?
No, excited to see you all at CalSPRA in San Jose. It's up here, so I'm excited.
Yay. You're going to be right down the road.
Yep. No, well, probably still a hotel, but I'm probably not. We'll see.
You should stay at the hotel. There's always like a bazillion things that CalSPRA members are doing before, during, and after the conference that you don't want to miss out on.
Do it.
And I'm looking forward to showcasing San Jose for folks because I'll be honest, I really had no idea how much that area had to offer until we did our site visits.
There's so much.
Yeah, I mean, you're really lucky to live in such a great place. All right, I will stick around in case anyone has any individual questions, but thank you again for joining us for this conference callback webinar. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Diego, for being generous and sharing all of this with us. And you will be receiving the slide deck as well as the recording. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.